Welcome to the Women Talk podcast, where ordinary women share their extraordinary stories. We would love for you to share your story on our podcast. Go to www.womentalk.ca and apply to share your story. And now let's welcome your host, founder, and CEO of Women Talk, Bridget Lessard-Diel.
Why can't I figure us out? We've all been there. Relationships are complicated, and sometimes love just isn't enough. EileenHead was married at the age of 19, and after 35 years in an unhappy marriage, she chose divorce. On her journey to figuring out her relationship, Eileen discovered the Enneagram of personality, and her whole life changed. Eileen is now on a mission to help as many people as possible with their relationships. She has written a book called Why Can't I Figure Us Out, and has now developed programs such as Get Loved the Way You Need. Let's listen to Eileen's story.
Did you ever feel lonely in your childhood? Disconnected from your family members? I had 3 older brothers, and there were 3 years between us. And it often felt like we were individual planets, all rotating around each other and all lost in our own little world. And I think what happens as children, we look out and we try and see, how can we fit in? How can we engage them? How can we get love the way we need? And so the way I learned to do that was I learned to be helpful. So I would, for one of my brothers who was so forgetful all the time, don't forget your lunch bell, and don't forget your homework. And I would do different things for them. And for my parents, I wanted them to have a happier relationship. And so I was always involved in attempting to engage them together and never realizing that that's how my personality was forming. And so when I met my husband at 16, and married him at 18, I thought, finally, my Prince Charming. I have my Prince Charming. And that we'd be together forever, and we would share everything, and we would be close, and we would share our hopes and dreams, and I could tell him anything, and that's not how it turned out. And I could never figure out, what is it? Like, we have the same values, we have the same morals, and we have the same goals. And yet we have this disconnection between us. And I didn't know why that was. And often it felt like he was my silent partner. I could see him, but it was like there was a glass wall between us. And so I would attempt to engage him. And many nights I would go to bed at night thinking, when there would be a withdrawal, or he would get really quiet, or he wouldn't respond to me. And I would go to bed at night and I would go over everything in my mind. What happened? What did I say? How did I say it? Should have I said it any differently? Can you relate to that? I think most people have done that, right? Where we have the same information and it goes round and round and round, and we attempt to get a new answer from it. And so I didn't know what to do. And I focused on our kids and what they were doing. But I wasn't happy, and I was stressed a lot of the time. And yet I would see other couples, and they seemed to be close and happy, and they enjoyed each other, comfortable. They seemed to be so comfortable together. And I kind of look at them and I think, what's their secret? Like, why can't I figure that out? What is it that I'm doing? It must be me, because he was really well liked, and I probably was too, but I was questioning myself. And so it really gave me, I never felt stable. I never felt like I had a foundation. It was like we were built on sand. I was always moving to attempt to figure this out. And so I looked for answers everywhere. And I would, I read many, many self-help books. I read marriage manuals. I did all the exercises. I wasn't able to engage him in any information on relationships. I took lots of workshops, and some of those helped me understand myself, but it didn't help me understand us together. And so often I felt not enough, not good enough, powerless to change the situation, lonely, and chronically unhappy. And as time goes on, things just build and build and build up. And I just started crying all the time. I was crying in the grocery store. I was crying driving home to where I could barely even see. And I really feel like I was close to a nervous breakdown. And I remember one day it was like someone reached out and shook me. And I heard this voice say, "You better start looking after yourself because nobody else will." Ooh, where'd that come from? But it really rang true for me. And I think it's true for most of us. We really need to start looking after ourselves. And so years went on and I became more and more chronically unhappy until I made the choice that I needed to leave him for me. I started getting callbacks with my medical reports, and I was on a more spiritual path. So I began to understand that there was dis-ease in my body. And if I didn't start looking after myself, there would soon be disease. And so I finally said to him, "I need to leave you for me." And I ended up deciding to divorce. And as I left that marriage, I found the Enneagram Personalities. And it was the biggest aha moment in my life. When I read my own profile, it was like reading my own biography. I was just so excited because things resonated so much with me. And it described my strengths and my values. See, most of us don't know our value. We're looking for that in all our relationships. But it gets really confusing because different people react to us differently. And it showed me a lot of other great things about me. And then some of these other things over here that stung a bit. Those were the challenging parts that I wanted to hide, but that everyone else sees. And I was really excited when I learned that I could take these challenges and I could build them into strengths. And then I read my ex-husband's profile, and in about 35 minutes, I knew more about him, myself, and our relationship than in all those years we'd lived together. So I became really excited, and I immediately began to take my training. And what I learned was there's lots of information on the Enneagram, on the internet, but I didn't know about the couple dynamics. And the more research I did, the more I learned about us and our couple dynamics. And so here's the specific information that I did learn. I am a 2 supporter helper personality, and he's a 9 peace seeker. And so I intensely attempted to engage him because I need connection. Well, that intensity felt like intrusive to him, and it felt controlling. So he would withdraw in order to maintain his identity and his independence. His withdrawal felt like rejection to me. And so for him, his personality trait is not to speak up because that causes conflict. And this is the dance that we did for 35 years, blindfolded, unconscious, and unaware.
Do you want more out of Women Talk? Sign up for our Women Talk membership today. Receive discounts at all of our live events, talk on more stages, receive free monthly webinars, or host a webinar yourself. Join this powerful sisterhood we call Women Talk. Visit womentalk.ca/membership to join at 70% off for a limited time only.
I think it's a dance that a lot of people do for a very long time.
Yeah, when you don't know your personality and your couple dynamics, it can be really confusing.
So you grew up with brothers, no sister.
And I was the youngest.
Did that affect your personality, you think?
Yep, it definitely did, because growing up on a farm, they're farm boys, they have a lot of responsibility, a lot of chores to do, and they didn't want a little girl tagging along, 9 years younger than my oldest brother, 3 years between each of us. And so I really had to work to be included. And that's part of the personality of the 2 is I want to be included.
Do you still believe in Prince Charming?
No. Yes and no, because I don't believe in that fairy tale that they're coming to complete us, that, they're the ones who are going to make us happy. Not at all. I believe that we need to make our own happiness, and when we create that, we can create very happy and loving relationships because we don't have the need for someone else to fulfill us.
What do you think of that statement to the effect that when you marry, you become one?
I don't. I believe that you need to be independent people in a relationship. The relationship is like having a dog. You both need, you need to be responsible for it, to feed it, to water it, to walk it, to nurture it. But you do so.
And pick up his poop.
Yes. And you may fight over whose job that is too. But, we lose ourselves. That's the thing in relationships. We tend to lose who we are and give up who we are because we're looking for this validation. We're looking for someone to make us whole. And when we do that for ourselves, that responsibility and expectation is not on the other person.
So no Prince Charming, but then do you believe love at first sight?
Oh, definitely. I believe there can be.
And how do you think that happens? Because obviously you don't know the person. So how can it be love at first sight?
I believe in energy. And each personality has their own energy. And besides, generally, people have positive energy. They have less positive energy, negative energy. So I believe when some of that happens and comes together, that's part of the chemistry. You relate to different patterns of different personalities. For instance, the 7 optimister is a lot of fun, and a lot of people can engage with them really quickly. It's the same as the 2 supporters. They like to connect with people. They do that easily. 3 achievers like yourself as well.
Now, a lot of people are meeting online these days. Do you think it's possible to have true love without never have touched someone physically?
Well, you can build that relationship. You can have the real conversations of what are your values, what do you need to be loved, what are your interests, all of those things. But I have friends that I'm going to a wedding in about 3 weeks, and they met online, and they are so happy together.
But do you think people can feel true love without having met the person physically? Because I always think, what if they smell bad?
Yeah. No,
it could be awesome, but maybe they smell bad.
For me, it needs to be like I can talk to someone like this, but in person, you feel their energy.
Yeah.
For me, I need to connect to the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they are a person that doesn't connect easily, that also gives me an indication of, coming forward maybe more, drawing them out. It's like emails and texts. You can say all the loving words you want, but they're pretty flat. And you can misinterpret them.
Yeah. And I mean, people nowadays meet via video and, but I think you have to feel that energy of that person, and you can only do that in person. It's kind of like women talk, when women share a story at a live event with somebody there, you can feel the story a lot more.
Oh, definitely. Watching the videos back, I can watch ones that I've been there and then watch it back. It's not the same experience. It's not as powerful. And there's also the room of energy of the other women sharing and hearing the story too.
So what, if you had to pick one self-help book for someone to read, what would it be?
The Wisdom of the Enneagram.
The Wisdom of the Enneagram.
Did you expect anything else from me other than the Enneagram? Come on.
No, I really didn't know. I mean, that's what, you're an expert at that, but it doesn't mean it was the book that helped you the most, maybe, or
the Enneagram in love and in relationships. Like I said, finding the Enneagram was the biggest aha moment of my life. So
do you think if you had learned about the Enneagram a year before you got divorced, do you think it would have saved your marriage?
Possibly. But it also would have he would have needed to be willing to engage. And sort of that's what happened. I found the information and that's sort of just as I was stepping out the door, and I was so excited. And yet he didn't want to engage in it. He didn't want to do the inner work that it required. And, that's a sad thing, because sometimes our partners aren't at the same place or as open to engaging in what they need to do for their own self-development. And so when I saw that he wasn't willing to, it was like, I pushed this boulder up the mountain for 35 years. I'm done.
And I'm out. Okay, so this amazing, wise Eileen of today looks back, let's say 15 years ago, let's say 5 years before you got divorced, 10 years. If you were to say one thing to that Eileen, what would it be?
Oh, it almost it almost chokes me up, because I had no idea who I was. And I was just bouncing around. It was like I was...
So what would you tell her?
I would tell her that she is enough, that she is lovable, that she is caring, that people value her because she is nurturing, because she likes to connect, and she is loving.
What do you mean when you say look after ourselves? We must look after ourselves. What does that mean?
Many of us have not did the self-discovery to understand our own core fundamental emotional needs. And when you understand that for yourself, I now am aware of when I'm getting too tired, when I need to take time off, when I'm not feeling loving to myself. I need to come back to, what do I need? What's going on? Why am I stressed? And I realize that I'm not doing the things to nurture myself.
Do you find people question themselves too much or not enough?
Too much. People are too hard on themselves. I remember a line from Pretty Woman where she said, the bad stuff is easier to believe than the good stuff.
Oh, that is so true. I love that. That's a great line. I've watched that movie, but I never caught that line.
Yeah, and it's true. It's, when someone says something to us, we go, oh, it hurts us to our core when you know who you are and that's not true for you. It doesn't hurt. It goes over your head.
So you now have this amazing coaching program that is called Should I Stay or Should I Go? And it always makes me want to sing, should I stay or should I go?
I need to play that first before I do my webinar.
So tell me about your program. What is that all about? What do you do? How do you help people?
Well, I'm an expert at should I stay or should I go, because I spent 35 years trying to make a decision, should I stay or should I go? And in this program, I take people through a process where they have the clarity to make one of three decisions. One, they've gone through the process I put them through to understand their personality, their couple dynamics, their relationship skills. And so the first one is they've been able to re-engage their partner, rejuvenate the relationship, and they're excited about it, and they're going to stay and work towards the future. The second one is they know they're not ready to leave yet, and so they're choosing to make the decision to stay. And the third one is they've looked at all the consequences, the ramifications, they believe it's unsalvageable, and they are ready to leave. Here's the key thing. As long as we stay in indecision, we are stuck. We are stuck in energy. Everybody's stuck. Nothing moves forward. So even by choosing to stay is a decision that puts you into action. Any of those three will put you into action of some sort, which is healthy, which moves you forward.
What do you think of women that stay because of their children?
That is fine. That's the second one, right? I'm not ready to leave yet. I'm choosing to stay. So once they consciously choose that decision, they can still move forward in their own growth, in making the situation better because they're not hammering at their partner or it may never come. So I'm going to choose to work on me and stay for the children until a certain time. There is no judgment on any of that.
So in that program, Should I Stay or Should I Go, do you use the Enneagram?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the Enneagram. I see behind you there, it has 9 personalities. Tell me the 9 personalities.
So the personalities are the 1 perfectors, the 2 supporter helpers, the 3 achievers. Raise your hand, Bridget.
Woo!
The 4 expressors, the 5 contemplators, which are the intellectuals, introverts, the 6 questioners, which are the worrier, more anxiety personalities, the 7 optimisters, positive, upbeat, fun, the 8 asserters, which are the more in control leaders, and the 9 peace seekers.
So now, when people come across these, like, do you see yourself in one of those right away, or?
A lot of them do. Just by the name. Some of them do.
And where does the Enneagram come from?
The Enneagram has been around since the 1700s. It is a well-respected model. It's taught at Stanford University, and they're even attempting to get it into the medical community. So it's a much more in-depth personality model than any of the other ones out there because it has what's called a path of development. It shows you the patterns that aren't working and what to replace them with. But what's really cool about it is it's an in-depth model that shows you to the depth of your being who you are, how you think, feel, react. And when you can see that there are millions of people just like you, it's like, I am okay. There's millions just like me. And we have the same challenges, and we can take our challenges and we can build them into strengths. So it's like a map of consciousness. And it's so cool. And it's not that easy. I mean, it's not that hard to get it. Like, people get it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I figured out mine very quickly. So how does that help me in my relationship to know my personality, my Enneagram personality, and my spouse or partner?
So when I know each of your personalities, I can show you your similarities, your differences, what triggers you might have together, what your potential trouble spots are, and how, when you understand each other's fundamental core emotional needs, how you can then be vulnerable. You can support your partner through their growth. You can see when they're getting stressed by their pattern, and you can say, hey, hon, I see you're getting stressed. What do you need, or what can I do for you?
I know I've heard you talk a little bit about the personality. One of my favorite example you use is Martha Stewart being married to Jim Carrey.
Yep.
OMG.
And people go, no, that could never work. Well, with consciousness, any 2 personalities can work together.
So is there a certain personality, like, should I marry a certain personality as an achiever? Or I shouldn't say should I marry. Is it easier for me to be with a certain personality than another?
Okay, so when people are aware and conscious and they're doing their own work, you can partner with any personalities because you're conscious, you're willing to work through it. At the less developed, there are certain personalities that it is easier for you to get along. For instance, I'm a 2 supporter personality, emotion-based, heart-based. I am sometimes challenged by the 5 contemplators because they're all about facts and logic. They're in their head. They just want facts and knowledge, and they don't want, they're more uncomfortable with the emotional, sensitive part. So, when I'm with someone who is that personality, I'm more aware of that, and I can make things more comfortable for both of us. So we then can connect deeper.
What do you like best about what you do now?
I love the transformation in people. I just love it. I have a coaching client right now who, I have more men right now than women, surprisingly. And he's just in awe of the system. He said, I can't believe how different we've been coaching for 10 days and maybe only 4 or 5 sessions. And he just says, I'm just so amazed at how much I've shifted and what a change there is in my life. So
that is very interesting. Do you think men or women are easier to coach?
I think men.
Interesting. You know what? Maybe it has to do that you grew up with boys.
Well, here's the thing. Women often need to be right because they believe they know how to do relationships. And they want to be right. They want the men to agree they're right and to follow along. And for men, they just want to know how to do it better. They want it simpler. They just want to fix it. Tell me what to do. And you can say, here's the 3 things you're going to do. Out the door they go, and boom, boom, boom. It's working great. I love it.
That's fascinating. I would have never guessed that. I wouldn't have. Yeah, that's great. So you're now a coach. You're a relationship expert. And if people want to get a hold of you and they would like to look a little bit further into your program, should I stay or should I go, or the Enneagram Personalities and all that great stuff, how can they get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, EileenHead.com, and I've got transformational coaching. I've got many different packages, and I've also got an online program called Get Love the Way You Need, and that gives you in depth about your personalities and your relationship style, what you need from your partner specifically and what they need from you.
And you also have a book, don't you?
Oh, I do. Yeah, that's whiles back. And guess what the title is? Why Can't I Figure Us Out?
Why can't I figure us out? I love it.
Well, 35 years going, why can't I figure us out?
I think that's a lifelong project.
No, actually, it's very easy with the Enneagram. I truly, it really is. Like, the information is so specific that it is quite easy. You can figure out people, not just your relationships, but your boss, your parents, your siblings, your children, everybody.
Thank you, Eileen. That was fabulous. So if you want to find out more about Eileen, go to Eileen.com, and there you can find all of the information, her program, her books. Eileen?
EileenHead.com.
Oh, I'm sorry. EileenHead.com.
Right.
It was fabulous talking with you. And as an achiever, I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye.
If you have a burning desire to share your story with our audience, apply to be on our podcast. To apply and find a full list of our podcasts, go to www.womentalk.ca.